This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Apple Gift Card is a practical gift that unlocks a world of entertainment and fun. You can send it via email or give a physical card to your loved ones. Your friends and family can spend it on their favorite Apple services, including Apple subscriptions. Apple Gift Card can be used to buy all things Apple: products, accessories, apps, games, movies, TV shows, iCloud Plus, and more. Visit apple.com for details and to send Apple Gift Cards to your friends and family this holiday season.
Welcome back to Keeping Current. I think that's at least our name that we're going forward with. With me, this is Thad Bell. With me, I have Daniel Sperry from the Kansas City Star and soccer genius and guru all around. So,
well, I appreciate that. I guess it's genius and guru. I don't know about that, but I try my best. I
just figured I'd suck up to you for once. I usually give you crap, so I figured I'd be nice once, right?
Yeah, it's better than the text message after in the middle of a press conference thing. I figured I'd let you get you a question and this time or something like that. So
no, I asked the first two, and I said I was making sure you could ask yours, man, instead of just because sometimes it sucks to be on there and like have the other guy ask 10 questions, and you're like, well, but by the time you get to me, I got nothing to ask. So
yeah. Well, it was funny. I know this is not a Sporting KC pod, but in the Sporting KC media availability, I think it was on Monday that we had with Peter Vermees, and it was just me and Allie. I got a text that it was just me and Allie, so they said, ask as many questions as you're ready to. And so then it ended up being a thing where Peter thought he was done multiple times and was not done, because then the two of us kept asking all of our questions.
Oh, I did get in on that one. I was just a little bit late.
Which is okay.
But I was just letting you go, man. I really honestly, with this part of the season of Sporting Kansas City, and again, it's not a SKC pod, but there's only so many questions you can ask that haven't been asked 1,000 times already. So I was pretty good unless something came up that generated a real question.
Right.
Peter's actually been in a good mood and answering questions lately.
He has. I like it. I appreciate it. And Coach Potter as well, because I think later that day too, we had a good conversation with Potter on the podcast, or not the podcast, but in the pregame interview, and it was I thought it was a little bit very candid from him, more relaxed, very candid from him. Yeah, for sure.
Probably helped he was sitting at a table in a hotel or something.
Probably, yeah.
We'll see how he does tomorrow if we do it in person. But all right, so the big news, and we our second official episode, and we have bad news. We went for most of a season with good news, and now we have bad news, and the streak has ended at 13.
Yeah, and as Lowe said earlier in the season, it wouldn't be Kansas City if something didn't go wrong, or whatever that quote was. So second podcast started right off the bat with the end of the streak. I don't know about your thoughts on the game. I thought I'll get two things that I think were uncharacteristic of them during this run. was the cleanliness of set pieces. They gave up 2 goals off set pieces, failed clearances, led to both set pieces, failed and poor marking, and just mistakes that we haven't seen out of them on set pieces. And for a team that has a coach that is very specific about set pieces and drills them as much, I think that was a very uncharacteristic point in that game last night. And then as much as I think they would say that Chicago, they wanted to say that Chicago didn't really do much to them, what they did do was clog any sort of passing lane into a number 10 who had kind of dropped deep, whoever it was going to be out of like Kaiser or Lavoisier, into those holes. And they kind of cut off those angles with a double pivot in that midfield and dropped the bucket in there, cut off the passing angles from into the kind of creator in zone 14 or so, in the area right in front of the penalty box, but not quite inside the penalty box, in the middle of the field. And that was it. They didn't really do that. They didn't find ways to overlap and get wide. And, I think that was what Chicago did to them, was that they stymied any sort of ability to move the ball centrally and link up and go. And they didn't foul the Current. They didn't give the Current set pieces, which they're also very good at scoring off of. So I thought it was as good of that game. If like Chicago's game plan was to do that, was to absorb pressure, smash them on the counter, and try and keep them with numbers behind the ball and a low block in the midfield, to cut off service to number 10. They did that exactly right, in my opinion. And I thought they did a good job of shutting the Current down. The Current didn't really look like they had much of an answer for trying to unlock that back line of the Red Stars. And it's the first time in a while where at some point in the match, it didn't look like the Current truly had the answer to how they were going to solve the problems that they had in front of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Most of the games on this streak, they have looked like the better team in the offense, at least for a half, if not more than a half of a game. And this one, I will say, like, in between the boxes, the Current were probably the better team, but in both boxes, they were by far the worst team. Mallory Pugh, the second goal, just made the defense look silly. Mallory Pugh, the third goal, made the defense look silly. The other two were, a little bit different. The ball off the corner piece that Ball did not clear the ball. She took a swipe at it and basically fell down. She was in the wrong spot, just off balance and trying to stretch for it. She didn't have a great game. I know some people were saying that she was terrible last night. I don't want to go that far, but I think for a team that plays that 3-player back line, you're going to be exposed once in a while, and Chicago exposed them at least 3 times, I'll say. 4 times for goals. And that's just the way it went. They exploited those weaknesses that the Current have had all year, but have mostly been able to keep plastered over.
Yeah, I agree. And I think because they were so difficult to solve, or so difficult to get through within that final third, I don't know. Coach Potter had mentioned after the Gotham game that he felt that they were a little impatient at times, and I thought they were really impatient in this game and not willing to work the ball side to side. I think they were, because there's a couple times too where they actually had the overlap. There was a potential overlap for Kate Del Fava at one point, or you play her into the box, she's in behind the back line, and has passing angles that she can pick out 3 or 4 different runners in that spot, but instead they put it up the middle to the runners, and that was exactly where all the Red Stars were at on defense, and it shut that down. A moment like that, like there wasn't enough like of a pendulum swing of the ball from left to right in the attack, and if they did, it went too slowly. One thing in it that I kind of want to touch on too, just the fact that the Current played on Sunday and then played in New York, and then played in Chicago on Wednesday, while Chicago played on Friday and then played at home on Wednesday. That's in the NWSL and MLS. You can talk about it all you want. Travel is serious when you have to do that. And now they're going to have to go play at home on Sunday against the Portland Thorns, who have not played a game since last weekend. So that is it's a tough schedule right there to do that, to go New York at New York, at Chicago, who's a really good team, and then home to Portland, who's fighting for the Shield with them. And another good thing I think that was mentioned after the game too is just the idea that they're now the hunted, that they've always been the hunters throughout this whole thing, where they're trying to push for the top spot, push for respect, recognition, push for the next points. And now all of a sudden at the top, there's a much bigger picture in how they have to approach those games. And I think that was their first game being the team that was, quote, the hunted. And I think it's a good learning experience for a lot of those players who have not been in a position where they're at the top of the field, at the top of the at the top of the Shield, at the top of the standings. And it's an opportunity to do that, to experience that, to feel like, oh, wow, now we have to, every team is going to give us their best performance, which means we also have to give, we can't have a night off, kind of a thing. And I think it's a good learning moment. And there's a reason why that 13 game streak is the second longest streak. It's very hard to do what they did. You don't do it without a little bit of luck along the way. And I think, Desi Scott afterwards did a really good job of pointing out that, all right, this is good. Humble ourselves. We've kind of been humbled here. We have an opportunity to, we get to feel the emotions of a loss. It's been 113 days since I had to write. It was 113 days since I had to write about a loss for the Kansas City Current. And I think that that's an incredible amount of time and a lot of emotions and different things that you do in the aftermath of a loss that you don't do maybe when you win. And I think, as much as they would like to say they try and keep that consistency, the emotions and the feelings are very different after those scenarios. So I think that's it'll be a good learning experience for this team, who are kind of just on the precipice of what they have been wanting to build, for with everything that they've been doing this year.
I didn't want to interrupt you there, but I'm going to touch on a couple points that you mentioned.
Okay.
I'd actually asked Potter, I think the press conference before this game or before the Gotham game, I forget which, but about because you're at the top of the table now, every team's going to be bringing their best game at you. And he said, he kind of poo-pooed it, but then like the next answer, he said, yeah, we're going to have to adjust to being the hunted and not the hunter. I'm like, well, isn't that the same thing I asked you? But something along that line. It was just interesting that I don't know if he subconsciously like realized he wanted to answer that differently and changed the different answer later.
Yeah.
But then you talk about the travel. Yeah, that definitely sucks. They're going to definitely be affected by that. One of the worst things, though, is even though Elizabeth Ball did not have her best game last game, she's going to be severely missed in this game. She ended up yellow card suspension, and that's their most consistent best center back they have by, I would say, by leaps and bounds at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be very dangerous with the lineup that Portland has coming at them that's rested and looking to take first place back.
Yeah. And, we saw Sophia Smith here for the U.S. Women's National Team. And my word, is she good? My word, is she fast? She is an incredibly dynamic player. And, excuse me.
Yeah, no, she's impressive.
Yeah, incredibly impressive, especially for just how young she is. It has an incredible ceiling, and I think that's going to be a really tough test. And you say, Ball's has definitely been the most consistent defender, I think, for the team this year, but she's also arguably their fastest. And she's the one that's going to be would have been trying to keep pace with Sophia Smith as she bursts through the midfield and tries to get it in behind the line and stuff like that. So I think that also adds another dimension to it as well, that you're missing your most athletic center back and your most consistent center back in a match where you really need consistent and athletic center backs to handle what Portland's gonna put at you.
Yeah, they have a great offense, and I don't know if they're gonna go with Leach there in the middle, or maybe all rookie back line, or I mean, who knows at this point?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would assume Kristen Edmonds would still be back there, but
Mhm.
the actually the other thing I was trying to get back to, and I forgot everything I was trying to get to, but uh, one of the weaknesses still with the Current is nobody is really clinical in front of goal. You have people creating lots of opportunities and getting those goals. CC Kaiser, Kristen Hamilton, Low off of penalties, mostly a few other goals. Haley Mace, knocks in bangers, but nobody's really clinical in there. And I believe before that first goal, they had a good opportunity to score, didn't finish. The ball went the other way, and it ends up in the back of the Current net. That if they had got that goal, that the Portland goal would have not happened, or it was either the first or second Portland goal would not have happened.
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yep.
That
Okay.
goal would not have happened, and it would have been a completely different game if they would have just been a little more clinical. They had several opportunities to finish in front of goal with a slightly better pass or a slightly better finish, and they couldn't find the back of Chicago's net. And it's how incredible is it that the first place team has a -2 goal differential?
Yeah, a lot of 1-goal wins along the streak. 9 wins there. Every single one was by 1 goal. And I think that's a skill in itself to be able to grind out close games and to do that. But it also is one of those where this team, as you mentioned, they're not the most prolific in front. They have a lot of different players who can score goals and they score a lot of chances, but arguably their most prolific player and most elite goal scorer would be Lynn Williams, who is not playing this year. And so I think that's the difference where, like, when you look at this team right now, I think you think, wow, there's a lot of really freaking good pieces for next year too, when they have their elite midfielder in Sam Mewis, they have their elite forward in Lynn Williams, hopefully, through injury and all that. So in being able to count on those type of players, it makes everything else that much more dangerous, right? Because that's someone else that's really got to take a lot of gravity and a lot of attention from the rest of that front line. So I think this has still been an incredibly impressive gate team. And they're still a very, very good team, and they deserve to be where they are in the standings. I'm not trying to say that at all, but at the same time, you realize just how dominant this team potentially could be when they have all their pieces, because the goal scoring for, I think even on the broadcast, they touched on it, when one game someone's not scoring, the other, someone else has been. And that was a game where no one stepped up and got the goals done and got the goals scored in that situation. So I think that's a tough thing for the Current in that one. And when it happens like that, sometimes those are kind of going to be the results. I think of even the North Carolina game in the Challenge Cup, very reminiscent of that. They Carolina countered them to death. The Current had a ton of chances, had a very high expected goals number that game as well. They scored 1 goal, had multiple golden opportunities that were not put home, and they probably could have won that game 3-2 or 4-2 in regulation if they had put home their golden chances. And so, there are some games where it's okay, and some games where it's not. And you can't make the margins for error when you play like that are much thinner, and you can't make the type of mistakes that they did on set pieces last night. Because especially when you're playing against players like Malpew, who can do what she did. And you can talk about, there's a lot of difficult defensive moments there from the Current, but at the same time, Malpew is the antagonist. She's the one with the ball. She's the one who's driving at people. She's the one who is an elite winger in the best national team in the world on paper, and that is a really incredibly dangerous player that did some incredible things. And I think Coach also alluded to that in the post game too, is that there's a reason why she's in the MVP conversation, is because she can single-handedly win games with moments like that. And those 2 goals that she scored were, brilliant. I know she gets the assist on the corner kick. She got a lot of help from the Current,
Right,
kind of ball watching on that play and not marking, Amanda Kowalski. But that was a clinic from Pew in what you get when you have that star power.
Yeah, and that's what Current does not have currently. No pun intended. And I do hope that Lynn Williams and Sam Ewes obviously come back next year. I have a lot of faith that Lynn Williams comes back next year, as good as she was before. We've already seen her out there running. Honestly,
Yeah.
if she wasn't unseasoning any injury and they're, probably being extremely extra cautious, she could probably be out there playing by the end of the year. But I know she's not going to be. That's not a rumor. That's not a suggestion. But we still don't know really much about Sam and what her condition really is and where she'll be. And there's a lot of questions in my mind about that, just like there are with DPs on Sporting. So what a
Just fair.
parallel there. But yeah, it would be nice if they had a Mal Pugh or a Sophia Smith or somebody like that, in a big game, you're like, okay, that's the person I'm going to get the ball to and put it on their shoulders. They have a lot of great role players. They have very, very good role players, players that obviously deserve to be there, but are not going to be what you consider that superstar.
Yeah, I even think they have. We could go from role players to stars to superstars. I think they have a lot of players too in that star category too.
Yeah,
that are very, very good NWSL players and some elite NWSL players. But Mount Pugh's an elite player in the world, and I think that when you have that type of a game changer on your team, that changes a lot of things and makes even all of those other pieces so strong. So I think that's where, of course, that's where we're coming from. And where we're coming from is that this team is already really freaking good. How insanely elite could they be if they had one of those elite superstars on the field? And they might have them on the roster. We just haven't gotten the opportunity to see it yet because of injuries. And I think that's another thing that I think current fans will have to take with them, throughout the rest of this season and into the off season. But as much as we talk about, you can, in a game moment where you can hand the ball to Mount Pugh, or you feel comfortable getting the ball to Pugh, and she's going to put in a ball, or she's going to try and get a shot off, and you can get her the ball and something's going to happen. The Current have been able to do that by team play and by using that, and that is also an incredible strength, as much as it is a bit of a weakness for them at times when the final product isn't there and when people aren't finishing. And so the team aspect and the good, strong team at every single position, for the most part, has been their strong suit, has been what's propelled them to this 13-match unbeaten streak. So I think current fans should be optimistic. I think current fans should be still very happy and very expectant of this team to continue playing good soccer and winning matches. But yeah, when you're trying to win a trophy, you kind of need those game changers. And
that's my worry when they get a couple rounds into the playoffs, is that they may not have that player.
Yeah.
And
we'll be happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still hoping that they go all the way, and this is not trying to jinx them in any way, shape, or form. Dumb question. Was it better for them to have ended this streak now than maybe on the last game of the season or against Portland?
Yeah, because I think doing so against Portland, I think that doubt creeps into your mind. They have, Washington is probably not, I think they're officially eliminated, if I'm not correct. Racing Louisville is close, if not already eliminated as well. Those are their final two matches of the season. Those are games that the Current should win. If all goes right and everybody is healthy, those are two games where you would expect the Current to win. But this Portland game, I think, you win that Chicago game. Maybe you feel like, okay, we really, if we lose this Portland game, we still have, these other two games, and maybe you don't learn from it. But losing, I think, to another playoff team in this before you play that Portland match, I think helps them kind of understand, okay, this Portland match now is not something we can overlook. We really have to be on our best game for it. And I think it helps take them off cruise control, makes them control the car a little bit more focused. And I think that's probably a good thing.
So they have Portland, Washington, and Louisville left, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Washington and Louisville are very winnable games. Not saying they will, but they are very winnable. Portland is that big question. Even if they only win the last 2 games, it puts them into the playoffs pretty easily. And that's a big step from what they were last year. Obviously, they had a lot of the pieces last year. In fact, a good chunk of the pieces that really matter this year they got last year, because the 2 big pieces in the offseason don't play. So really the big addition in this year has been CC and then Lavoisier here recently. And what'd you think of her play?
I thought she was fine. I think she was actually probably the one who was the one creating the most chances. I just didn't think her shots came off at the right time, or didn't come off with the right power at the right times. I don't know. I think everybody was just a little bit off in that game, and I think maybe her finishing touch was off per se, but I thought she was really dangerous. I thought she was more dangerous in the game against Chicago than she was against Gotham. I think she was a little bit better on the ball, a little bit cleaner, and had a lot of energy to her. And I thought it was a good showing. I think there are things that she does that are very different from Victoria Pickett, whose spot she kind of took out of the lineup in a way. And she's much more attack minded, much more clinical and clean in the final third. But I think there's some things in the buildup that she does that I am not in that I think were better served by Victoria Pickett's skill set, and being able to eliminate players higher up the field with passes and with movement and stuff like that. Lavoisier tends to be a little bit closer to goal in her positioning, and so it just changes the look that the Current have a little bit more so. And I don't think either one is the wrong or the right way. Goals win games. Lavoisier's probably more likely to put in a few goals for you in that aspect, but I thought she did a good job against Chicago. Maybe the game needed her a little bit more, needed someone more like Pickett against the Gotham. Funny because she was on the other side of the field, but at the same time, there's still so much quality around her that I think it's hard. I feel like I'm being so nitpicky when I talk about it this way, because there's not really I think a drastic difference between either of them. It just kind of changes what player you have and where their strong suits are on the field, and we've seen her for closer to goal, and I think it's dropped Kaiser a little bit further deep into the midfield than where she was kind of leading the line, and that changes things up a little bit,
which I don't think is her strong suit. So
and I also think Kaiser was trying to do a little bit of that in the game too against Chicago, but Chicago just eliminated the ball getting into Hamilton or to her so much that it was really difficult. It was pretty much only Lavoisier who had the opportunity to create, because she was that kind of free floating roamer underneath the 2 strikers there. So it just a difficult match for them on the road. And I don't want to take too many big picture thoughts away from it. Just because if they were going to lose at some point, I do think expected goals will tell you that score line was not anywhere close to what it should have been. It'll tell you it should have maybe been 1-0 to the Fire, maybe 2-0, and that was it. So obviously now Pew's chances were so
Red
ridiculously.
Stars.
Yes. What did I say?
Fire.
Oh gosh, goodness gracious.
And we both screwed up to something up today, so that's cool. There's so many teams, man. Yeah,
there's so many teams. They're playing in the Fire's old stadium.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I'm sorry.
No,
my apologies.
Don't worry about it. At least not from my perspective. Again, it's when you have 2 teams in the same city, it's easy to cross them up, at least by names. I mean, we know who we're talking about. Just
you have to cover both leagues intently. So
yeah. And the Red Stars at least have things to brag about, not like the Fire.
Yeah.
Got to get a little Chicago slam once in a while, right?
Yeah. The Fire do it to themselves. So okay.
Yeah. Back to Lavoisier and Pickett for a second. I kind of agree. I think Lavoisier is more talented in a lot of ways, Pickett has, if you said if you're going to give a player skill points and they could place them in different spots, Lavage placed them in more of the attack, and Pickett placed them more in the dribble. But I think overall Lavage has a few more skill points total than Pickett does at this point. But she was great in the dribble. She just did not do the next thing with that dribble so many times. Very rarely the shot or the connecting pass to set up a goal. If she did, she'd still be here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The so we said they got 3 remaining games. They'll probably at least win 2 of them. They'll be in the playoffs. We've talked about maybe they'll struggle against teams that have that big superstar elite star that can put their the game on their back kind of thing. But overall, I mean, it still will be a huge accomplishment just getting to the playoffs and a second round or the final. That's going to be a huge accomplishment for this team who has. We know the story last year. We know that they were getting better last year. A lot of the same players are the ones that are contributing now, but a lot of the rookies that came in this year have contributed heavily, like Loera, Bennett, Weinberner. I would like to see her out on the field more. Izzy Rodriguez, Chardonnay Coran. And then with next year, they have another first round pick and 8 total picks in the draft. So there's a good chance that there'll be another crop of rookies next year that'll be contributing and pushing these players. So next year looks very promising. In the long run, I don't know if when you came to Kansas City, but this feels a lot like that 2011 kind of Sporting team where they were getting good, but they weren't over the hump yet, right? And then in 2012 they won an Open Cup, and in 2013 the MLS Cup, but it was moving into that new stadium and stuff. It feels much like this team is setting themselves up to be ready to win a championship that first year in the new stadium, which is, I mean, still 2 seasons away, but.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they can't win a championship now.
They can,
at the
it's
rest,
possible.
they can very, very, very much can. I think they've been able to beat teams like San Diego on the road. They've beaten, I think the rain was a difficult situation that they were in up there, and it was a late goal that was scored there that looked much better against them when they were at home. But I think there's some of those teams that are up in the table with them also are kind of in the same position because of injuries as well. And so I think, look at Angel City, no Christian Press for the season. And I think that there's a lot of superstars in the league that are kind of missing in certain places. I think it still opens the door for them. And this is a team that most likely will keep games close. So it's a matter of whether or not they can, they've been blown out ish twice. And it was the regular season opener against Portland and the loss last night. I wouldn't consider any of their other losses that they had blowouts per se. So, so I think that, and I'm not counting Challenge Cup losses in this either. So, this is just one of those things where you're like, okay, this is still a very good team. They'll give themselves opportunities to win every single game. And that means anything can happen. So if you go on a 13 unbeaten streak, you probably have a good shot at winning a title. So I still think it's there for them. I'd be shocked if they don't end up with at least one home game in the postseason. Yeah. I would really be shocked if they collapsed far enough to be in a 5 or 6 position. So, I think you should expect a home game out of them in the postseason. Would be great if their only home game of the postseason was a semifinal, because they got one of the top 2 seeds. But that's going to take some work over the next couple of weeks, these next 3 matches, to make sure that doesn't happen. But if that's the case, I mean, you get to a final, anything can happen. And I think we both know that covering Major League Soccer, and you, of course, covering NWSL much longer than I have. And, you get to the final, you have a shot. And, giving yourself one game at home to get to a final puts you in a really good position to do that. So, I fully expect this team to be a true contender throughout the rest of the season, until I'm proven wrong here. But yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being too negative. I'm just trying to manage expectations in a way.
Correct.
I do expect them to win 2 of their last 3, potentially 2 in a draw, potentially 2 in a loss, but that should put them in hosting a home game. The standings are still tight though. I mean, it's 32, 31, 31, 30, 30, 28 points down through 6. So that's really just 3 points difference between first and 6th place. So anything can happen in there. So they have to at least knock out a couple of wins, preferably a couple wins and a draw.
Yeah.
And any team out there is a team that they can beat because they've been able to do it to, I think they've probably beaten every team now except Portland in this season.
Yep.
There might be one other that I'm not sure. I mean, they're
Orlando technically had 2 draws, so
yeah. So we'll give them that. Of course,
that's all they've got this year.
Yeah, they're in 9th place, so who cares? In fact, it's I think they've tried to get worse this year, haven't they?
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. It's very potential that they will get a home game and get to a final. I'm just trying to, like I said, keep in my own mind the expectations that it's going to be very tough for them to win a final with a team out there that they would be most likely facing a Portland, maybe San Diego, who has some superstars that can score goals in bunches. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
Right. Anything else we should have talked about today, Mr. Sperry?
Just trying to think about it, but I don't think so. I think we're pretty good on it. I feel do you want to give a prediction for Sunday?
You first.
I say I'll go with the 1-1 draw. I think they fight back. Maybe not enough to win, but I think they will punch back after that loss to kind of recoup some of their I guess that chip on their shoulder a bit.
I think if it's a draw, it's going to be multiple goal draw.
Okay.
Most of their draws, I believe, have been 2-2s. And I don't see them holding out the Portland offense for only a 1 goal. So
yeah,
but
that's fair. Go for it.
So we'll go 2-2 or 3-3.
Okay.
Can I do both?
Sure. All are 1 point, and none of those score lines affect their goal differential either. So
no, which will crack me up if they end up the year with like a 0 goal differential, but which actually won't be a bad thing. So it's still amazing, man. I gotta have somebody do some research and see how many of teams have ever finished with a negative goal differential on the top of the table, if ever. All right. Well, thanks everybody to listening, and we will try to keep these going for the rest of the season. It's been tough to have a regular schedule, especially like these weeks when there's multiple games from multiple teams.
Correct.
And we will probably have additional people joining us in the future. Won't always be just Daniel and I, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and
I don't give a damn if it's 9 a.m. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. Just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood